representative of the Russian Federation.
Mr. President, we thank the representatives of the UN Secretariat and Gazprom for their briefings. We also thank Mr. Almazega. I will not comment on his interesting but at times not always objective briefing regarding what is happening on the gas market. We have a representative of Gazprom here with us, and I think he could do so himself if he so chooses. Mr. President, Russia requested today's meeting in connection with the acts of sabotage on 3 lines of the Nordstream offshore gas pipeline system on September 27, 2022, in the exclusive economic zone of Denmark and Sweden near the Danish island of Bornholm. The Prosecutor General's Office of the Russian Federation has already initiated criminal proceedings under the Article of Acts of International Terrorism. A preliminary investigation has been opened. Right now, let's simply take a look at the facts, side by side. Fact number 1, a few weeks before the start of the special military operation, U.S. President John Biden said, and I quote, "If Russia invades, that means tanks and troops crossing the border of Ukraine again, then there will be no longer a Nord Stream 2. We will bring an end to it." End of quote. In response to a journalist's question about how this could be possible if Nord Stream 2 is controlled by Germany and not by the U.S., President Biden replied, "I promise you we will be able to do it." This message was then parroted by many U.S. officials. Fact number 2. In June 2022, the Danish island of Bornholm, where 3 months later the Nord Stream incident was to take place, was the site of large-scale NATO exercises in the Baltic Sea, or BALTOPS. As the U.S. publication Sea Power wrote, one of the main objectives for the alliance during these exercises was to test unmanned underwater vehicles, for which the waters off the island were best suited. Following the conclusion of the exercises, the American landing ship USS Accuses did not leave the Baltic Sea and remained near the Danish island until the 20th of September. But the most interesting part is that ever since the end of August, the ship's helicopter unit began to systematically patrol the area of Bornholm Island, and the flight path of the helicopters curiously coincides with the route of the gas pipelines. I want to stress that this is open data on the geolocation of maritime and air transport, which is collected on the basis of data from transponders. In other words, the United States did not hide their presence in the area and carried out their maneuvers in a demonstrative and deliberate manner. Fact number 3, immediately after the incident, the former Minister of Defense and Foreign Affairs of Poland, Radek Sikorski, posted a photo of the leak site on Twitter and openly thanked the United States for this sabotage. He wrote, "Thank you, USA." Here is a photo of that tweet. Under it, the acting member of the European Parliament commented on his own tweet and said, I quote, "There's no shortage of pipeline capacity for taking gas from Russia to Western Europe, including Germany. Nord Stream's only logic was for Putin to be able to blackmail or wage war on Eastern Europe with impunity." End of quote. Yesterday, apparently realizing that he had said too much, he deleted his tweet. We also cannot fail to note that Mr. Sikorski's wife, Anna Applebaum, is a person who enjoys access to the circle of power in Washington, D.C. and a wide variety of information. Fact number 4. Almost at the same time as the sabotage on the Nord Stream took place, the Polish city of Golinów marked the official opening of the Baltic gas pipeline from Norway. Poland has long positioned this pipeline as a salvation from the Nord Stream, even though, incidentally, the capacity of the Baltic pipe is far inferior to that of Nord Stream. Fact number 5. is the statement by NATO in connection with the incident, warning of the danger of strikes against NATO infrastructure. It's as though NATO is afraid that someone will retaliate for something and take revenge on them. An uneasy conscience betrays itself, as the saying goes. As in any investigation, first and foremost, it is important to establish who benefits from the current situation, or as investigators say, who had the motive and the opportunity to commit the crime. Let's analyze this further. Does the destruction of Nordstream benefit European states? Hardly. They, in this case, become dependent on a more expensive and extremely unreliable supplier. And I'm referring to the host country of the UN headquarters. If we set aside the Polish, Czech, and Baltic politicians who have gone completely mad with Russophobia, then despite the off-the-charts anti-Russian hysteria in the EU, experts cannot fail to recognize the danger of such a scenario and its consequences for the European economy. Serious environmental damage has been dealt to the Baltic Sea. Maritime communications are under threat. Colleagues from Denmark and Sweden confirmed all this in their letters to the Security Council. The objective significance of Nord Stream 1 and 2 and their contribution to Europe's energy security has been repeatedly stressed by top EU officials, as well as those of its member states. For the European Commission, Nord Stream initially had the status of a project of common interest and enjoyed full political support. The gas pipeline system has made a significant contribution to diversifying gas supply routes, like the Yamal Europe and Turkish Stream pipelines. Their commissioning has made it possible to gradually begin to move away from the transit dependence of Europe's gas supply on the monopoly of the Kiev government, which has become known for its unscrupulous business practices, or in other words, simply theft. Germany's leadership has been saying for many years that the need for gas for Germany and Europe will only increase. In 2021, Austrian authorities stated that Nord Stream contributes to the energy security of Europe and welcomed steps that would improve the reliability of the continent's energy supply. The aftermath of the ensuing energy crisis has proven right those who understood the importance of Nord Stream in ensuring stable and predictable energy supplies. The interruptions in gas supplies caused by European and American sanctions in 2022 already negatively affecting European industry, its profitability and competitiveness, and are provoking the immigration of skilled labor and the transfer of production capacities outside of Europe and to the United States in particular. Energy poverty has not only returned, it has soared to the top of the agenda not only in the developing world, but in developed countries as well. The resumption of deliveries primarily under long-term contracts, as Russia has offered and continues to offer, would allow to stabilize the situation in the manufacturing industry and avoid an energy collapse. The next question is whether the destruction of the Nord Stream benefits Russia. If you look at it from the point of view of common sense and not in the spirit of morbid fantasies about Russia being ready to do anything to intimidate Europe, then of course not. It makes no sense for us to destroy a project in which we have invested such a huge amount and from which there could be a significant economic return for us with our own hands. After all, you yourself in the West have claimed that we profit from the export of energy resources and benefit from their rising prices. And finally, the main question, whether what happened with the Nord Stream benefits the United States. And the answer is undoubtedly. American liquefied natural gas suppliers should be celebrating the manifold increase in LNG supplies to Europe. And from a political standpoint, the last thread ensuring the energy independence of the EU has been ruptured. Due to the energy crisis, European production has been hastily transferred to the US. They are receiving top personnel, advanced technologies, production resources, things that Europe has been accumulating and developing for decades. The residents of Europe have been left to face their problems alone. And across the ocean, no one cares that Europe is in for a very dark, cold, and long winter. In connection with these very simple and logical questions, I want to ask the U.S. representative, can you confirm right now in this room that your country is not involved and has nothing to do with this sabotage? Colleagues, of course, we are not setting the goal of finding and naming the perpetrators today. The Security Council is not a judicial body. It should not take on such tasks. That is why Russia advocates a comprehensive investigation to shed light on the true circumstances of the incident. We would be interested in hearing the views of our Western colleagues today and hearing their official position. We hope that you will abstain from meaningless Russophobic verbal gymnastics, such as those that you used in relation to the Ukrainian strikes on the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. Should we expect you to make statements that following the masochistic shelling of the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, where we ourselves are located, we began to detonate our very own gas pipelines? It is quite clear to us that carrying out sabotage of such complexity and scale is beyond the power of ordinary terrorists. We consider the actions to damage the gas pipelines to be deliberate sabotage against a crucial element of the Russian Federation's energy infrastructure. This is an attack that could hardly have happened without the involvement of state or state-controlled actors. We will certainly identify all those involved in this act. Those standing behind it cannot claim to be a non-party to the armed conflict or to have neutral status, which, it must be admitted, Western countries have long violated. Moreover, I want to stress that any international investigation into the incident can claim to be objective only if it involves experts from Russia. We are also convinced of the need for not only those countries in whose territorial waters the sabotage was carried out to participate, but also representatives of Germany, as it was the main intended recipient of Nordstream gas. If the theory that certain states are involved in these terrorist acts is confirmed, then this will mean a deliberate escalation of the conflict. I hope, colleagues, that everyone in this room is aware of the dangerous brink to which those who committed this act of sabotage are leading us. Thank you. I thank the representative of the Russian Federation for his statement, and I now give the floor to the representative of Norway.
Thank you, President, and we thank the briefers for their updates. The damage to the Nord Stream 1 and 2 pipelines in international waters within the economic zones